Hi, Soul Chat. I just wanted to talk today about how I think that a lot of times some of our problems in a good relationship, um, even is because of the way that we've not learned how to define certain words. Like, for example, um, we all know it's normal we're created to have longings, to have longings for things. And we should have like a longing to love people, a longing to have a purpose, a longing to be serving in some way, to be contributing. Longings are really like unusually deep desires. And so when we desire something, that's that's a good thing to desire something. But the problem is that not all of our desires or longings are meant to be fulfilled. And so what happens is sometimes it's a legitimate longing, but you don't have control over making it come to fruition. So it doesn't happen, and then you're left with this longing that you don't know what to do with because you're in a lot of pain, or it's caused you to shut down, or whatever it is that your style might be when you're hit with something very excruciatingly disappointing. Like, that's the kind of longing I'm talking about. um, and so those are the desires. But when we also can confuse, like, those are good desires, it's just that you can't control the outcome. And then there's the category of needs. Needs are different than longings and desires. Needs, I'm defining as literally what you have to have in order to to basically stay alive. That's your main needs. You have to be, have food, water, shelter, that kind of thing. So when those needs are not met, there is like a definite, um, lifelong kind of result from that not being met. So, but see, what happens sometimes is we get the desires and needs confused. And so we think that what we're desiring is a need. And then when we don't get it, we fall apart internally or outwardly the same way as if it was a need, like we were deprived of, um, when it was a desire. It wasn't a need. And so desires are not going to happen a lot of times throughout life. That's how it is. But if you've been deprived as a child, you've been not even had your legitimate needs met, it's very, very confusing and difficult to separate your needs from desires. um, when you're in it, it feels the same. It feels like the same level of abandonment, the same level of rejection, the same way it felt as a child when you just needed someone to hear you, listen to you, see you, love you. And when that didn't happen, you had to learn how to deal with that. And that was excruciating. But when you have a desire as an adult, I might desire a certain response from you. I might desire for things to work out a certain way for me. And because I don't have control over it, those desires can get blocked. And I'm really believing that when our desires are blocked, that's when we look like we have or develop psychological symptoms. When we have like a blocked desire and we're feeling like it's a need, even though it's not, then we go to depression, or we go to rage, or we go to having a lot of anxiety. Um, when a lot of times, if we could just stop and have the ability to just think to ourselves, okay, what's going on right now? Is what I'm wanting a need that I really will die or have some kind of lifelong sustained injury emotionally if this doesn't happen for me? Or is this something I have a very, very deep, legitimate desire and longing for, but because I don't have control over other people and their reactions, and that didn't come through for me, Maybe I don't need to go to depression. Maybe I don't need to go to anxiety. Maybe if I can realize that it's just something that I'm having to feel and go through, but it doesn't have the power to kill me or harm me. It just is feeling very much like something familiar that's happened to me either growing up or in other relationships where you were not treated well. And so even to yourself throughout the day, it doesn't even have to involve other people. There can be times where you're wanting the day to go a certain way, and because it doesn't, then obviously that's like a blocked goal. My day's not going how I wanted to, and so I'm blocked from getting what I think is a need. But if I can stop and think it through and go, no, it was okay. I mean, for me, I really, really longed and desired for that to happen, and it didn't. But I'm going to be okay. I'm sad. I might cry. I might be upset and have some anger for a little bit, but I'm not going to stay stuck in it. That's the difference. I'm going to be able to find a way out and be able to get, back to where I'm grounded and I'm okay again. And I am not feeling like I'm not lovable or something's wrong with me because what I desired didn't happen. It just is a part of life. And that's what's hard when you've had a lot of trauma growing up. It's hard to distinguish between what are the things that are just a part of life that just happen to everybody, and what are the things that don't happen to everybody that was true trauma. And because sometimes you can't differentiate between those two things, when someone does something that feels familiar to what was done to you, then it feels the same inside. It feels the same internally. And then you just have to remind yourself, no, that's when I was younger. That was in a different relationship. My goal was blocked. What I really needed, like, it felt like air to breathe kind of a need, wasn't happening. But that's not what's going on here right now. What's going on here right now is I'm being deeply, deeply disappointed, but I'm going to be okay. I can take care of myself. I can talk to myself. I can figure this out and get to the other side instead of staying stuck on, I'm not going to be okay until I get this particular thing to happen. And then that's when, the controlling starts, manipulating, or you just fall into a depression and you lose time because you really feel like it's so familiar to the past that you can't not think it's what's happening in the present. And so your body's reacting the same way. Your emotions are reacting the same way. So these are times where it's really good to just get yourself grounded, remind yourself of what's true, and then try to come back into being okay with the way that things are going and how they turned out. And that, you can move forward. And then what happens is those times get closer and closer together. Like as soon as you develop that way of thinking, then when something happens and you start to feel all those emotions flooding, then you are able to say to yourself, oh, this is what happened the other times where I'm thinking I have to have this, that it's a need when it's really a desire. So I'm going to be okay. I'll be okay. And then you move forward. But the first whatever times it's not going to go like that. It's going to require you to really spend some time talking to yourself and figuring it out. How are you making this desire into a need? Because we all have different ways of doing that. So I just wanted to share that with you. We'll keep going, and I hope you have a great weekend, and love you guys. And as always, you can leave a comment, you can ask a question, you can DM me, however you want to do it, and we'll go from there. Bye-bye.